Hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 hey.
Wanna be on the team, take a number, only push coops clean, knocking bumpers, bringing crowds to their knees.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Morning Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. Glad to be here this Wednesday morning, midweek, hump day. Great day, great. Would rather be no other place. There we go. That's what I wanted to say. Make sure you guys check me out at CJ Sports 1. Follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check me out on Facebook, my personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports, the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Check us out at www.the110nation.com. And also check us out, our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. Tell you what, it's been a fun week so far. I mean, the NFL and seeing all the quarterback changes, or not the quarterback, but the coach changes, general manager changes. Got 3 teams fighting for relocation. Interesting week so far, and we're only halfway through the middle of the week, and I tell you what, this is only building up for a great weekend. Now that we got week 1 of the NFL playoffs coming up, so we got the bowl games coming up this weekend, and once this is done, our focus, our attention now shifts, and it's starting to shift already. You can see the college basketball now is gaining that momentum that we're starting to shift. You know, with only one more football game in college football, in college, and then the NFL. We only got about 3 more actual weeks of NFL. We see this trend going. We see that the basketball is starting to become the focal point. Unless you're a NASCAR fan, then you got testing coming up, and you're focused, and your attention is going in that direction. So it's a fun week. And speaking of college football, LSU last night did something I don't think Kentucky was expecting, ending their 21 game streak against SEC opponents by beating, and not just beating, but beating Kentucky. LSU rolled all over them 85-67. Very, very impressive game for LSU. The freshman sensation Simmons had 14 points and 10 rebounds as a 9-5 LSU team victorious over Kentucky. I'll tell you what, Kentucky not as dominant as we're used to seeing Kentucky. I mean, that's right out the gate, 2 losses to non-ranked teams. I mean, with that loss to Ohio State earlier in the year, which I think caught a lot of people off guard, and then that loss to UCLA as well early in the year, but I think more specifically that loss to Ohio State, and now LSU. I know that there's a lot of hype around the Simmons kid. My whole thing is that you're putting a lot of focal point on one player when it's a team, and obviously your team is having an issue. If you're only 9-5 at this point, and Um, One, I know it's got to be aggravating for Simmons to be on a team that here you are, the freshman, and you are the best player on the team. You are the leader. A role that most freshmen don't take on, and most freshmen are not expected to step into that role and try to be mature about the situation. Simmons obviously doing a good job about it, not letting his head get too big for the situation, but also trying to improve this LSU team and trying to get them up to par and be a more of a balanced team, a team that has his back, a team that he knows that if he has an off night that they're going to win versus having to carry the load weekend or night in and night out. But I thought it was entertaining because we were sitting there talking about the house last night, and Shorty and I, and she was talking about Kentucky, and she keeps up with a lot of sports, but not necessarily college basketball or the how good some college teams are. And so she asked, she was like, is Kentucky a good team? It's a powerhouse team. It's to describe Kentucky to me is a little bit different than to describe most other college teams when it comes to basketball. And for the fact that, a lot of schools, they recruit for players They recruit players that they expect to be there 2, 3, 4 years or whatever the case may be. Not one and done. And Kentucky, they recruit for one and dones. And they do this sensational job at doing it. I mean, to recruit the players that they recruit and get them to click. I mean, we know how hard it is for the team to come together and click. So, I mean, we watched the Miami Heat. It took them a good season or two before a good season before they actually clicked, and even partway into the second season before things finally started clicking. Now, granted, that second season they won the championship. Hell, even the first season they went to the finals, but they weren't clicking on all cylinders, and we eventually saw that in season 2. So to have not only these younger, I mean, basically kids doing it, but clicking as quick as they're clicking. I mean, that to me is very impressive. You don't get that, and especially you don't get that out of a bunch of star athletes that most of the time when they come into this, they're already got a hot head on themselves, first of all, but second of all, they're usually worried about themselves. They're usually worried about the national attention they are going to get, because when you go to Kentucky, you're expecting to get that attention. You're expecting to get that spotlight. You're expecting the national coverage so you can play one season of basketball and be out. I mean, that's essentially why you go to Kentucky, not to get a college career or education, not to be there for 2-3 years. Your goal and your mission when you go to play for Kentucky Wildcats is to get in there, get that attention, be on TV, and be drafted. And that's the difference between all the rest of the teams and Kentucky, because all the rest of the teams, you know that when you go to Duke or when you go to Ohio State, or you go to Gonzaga, or all these other Butler, all these other schools, more than likely you're going into a system that is filled with a bunch of pretty good players. And you're going to be a role player, and you're not necessarily going to have the national attention. You're not necessarily going to have all the TV time, and you're not necessarily expected to go to the to win it all, win the tournament right out the gate. Kentucky, you are. Kentucky, you're expected to be in the spotlight. You're expected to win the national title every year. I'm not saying that they do, and I'm not saying that I'm a Kentucky fan. It just is what it is. You're kind of going into two different mindsets. You're totally looking at it different when you're going to Kentucky versus when you're going to other schools, and and generally that's what ends up happening. I mean, usually almost every year, Kentucky puts on a hell of a season. They have a bunch of stud players that they know that we're going to go play on the court with four other, the best of the best, maybe two other deep bench players that could be legitimate starters anywhere else. And we're going to put together the best season we possibly can as a team. And we're going to be done. We're going to the NBA. And, these players go there knowing that, we're not hanging around college. We're just getting that spotlight. We're getting that 1 year out of the way that we got to get out required by the NBA, so we can go play. Not hang around. Not make the coach look great. Not make the program look great. Just get in, get out, and be done. And I was explaining that to her. It's just different. The Kentucky Wildcats are usually top 5 team easily. They're in the Final Four almost every year, especially as of late. I mean, they've got that program to the point where, they're able to recruit the best of the best because they know what the end result is. And there's not too many other colleges that can say, I mean, yeah, Duke, you're going to recruit some good players. UNC, yes, they're going to recruit some good players. And some of these other colleges, yes, they're going to recruit, but they're not going to get the 5 to 7 players, pretty much the best of the best, like Kentucky is, because it's a different atmosphere. It's a different expectation. It's a different, a whole different scenario. And I was breaking that down to her to help her understand the difference between, why it was kind of a shock to me that LSU went and was able to beat Kentucky last night and beat them commandingly. I mean, 18 points. But why it was, why Kentucky is who they are and why we expect so much more out of Kentucky than we do the rest of the teams, because of the way that these programs are set up. And so, I had the opportunity to break that down. And like I said, 18-point loss last night. I mean, that was, to me, was rather shocking. I mean, it's Kentucky. I mean, you just don't expect, Kentucky to lose, especially to a non-ranked team. I mean, it's 2 non-ranked teams. I'm not sure if UCLA was ranked at the time when they beat them or not. But, I mean, Ohio State and now LSU, neither one ranked at all, and able to beat the Wildcat, a team that we kind of expect at this point. I mean, the way they've been playing for the last handful of years, we only expect them to win or lose a game or two, not to constantly lose games. And now you already got 3 losses in this early season so far, and so I don't know. It's different to me. I can't really explain. I mean, that's about the only way I can explain how that's the only way I can really explain how I would talk about Kentucky and versus the other teams, and why it's I don't know why it was a shock last night, I guess, that LSU, like I said, not only beat them but rolled up on them. and really put a hurting on the really put a hurt on the Wildcats. I'm glad though. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm not a Kentucky fan by any stretch of the imagination. You have to respect. You have to respect what this program does, but I don't necessarily like what the program does. So, we had some great games last night. Gold State's able to hold on to beat the Lakers last night, 109-88. Steph Curry, still not 100% at this point. One of those things that this really could affect things. I know that Steph Curry's nagging left leg contusion has made the MVP favorite a slightly less than overwhelming figure for opposing defenses, but that doesn't mean the Golden State Warriors offense looks especially vulnerable. With Curry out or hobbled, the Golden State Warriors offense looks stepped up. What this is where I'm having an issue with what Golden State is doing. I understand you're enjoying this historic run. You have a record that is it is second to none. You're 33-2 in 35 games. Nobody else has ever had a record. Nobody has had a record at 35 games like this. And as great of a historic run this is, and as great of a storyline this is, and I know it's got to be hard. This would have to be a hard decision. But as good as things are going, and knowing what is in stake, and knowing that you have a 4-game lead over the second place San Antonio right now, why are you taking a chance? At this point, what is more important? Having a season that tops the 72-10 Chicago Bulls, or being repeat NBA final champions? I mean, honestly, with the nagging leg injury with Steph Curry, I take my chances. I take my chances that Steph Curry on the bench, my team is still deep enough to win. Yes, I know that they lost the second game, the game to the Mavericks, because Steph Curry wasn't playing. I'm well aware of this. But at some point, you got to give Steph Curry the opportunity to recover. You got to give him the chance to get to be 100%. If you want the opportunity, if you want the chance, I mean, if you're really seeking back-to-back championships, you need Curry at 100%. And so at this point, to me, my only question to the Golden State Warriors is, what is more important? Is it more important that you can go 73-9 or 74-8 so you can be the best team all time in an 82-game season? Or is winning a championship more important? Like I said, I'm sitting him. I'm giving him an opportunity to recover. I'm expecting the next man to step up. I mean, most of these games that Steph has been slacking, I mean, Draymond Green has been stepping up anyway. You got Klay Thompson, who stepped up last night. I mean, you got Harrison Barnes back. You got your crew. Why not? I mean, is having a historic run that much more important than winning a championship at this point? If you're worried about losing the number one seed, like I said, you got a 4-game cushion. Use it. Sit him until you get within a game or two. Then put your foot back down on the opponent's throat. Take your chance. If it takes a week, 2 weeks, and you can still run the table and still stay a few games ahead of San Antonio, and at the same time give Steph Curry the proper time to recuperate, recover. I don't know how long it would take, but give him an opportunity. Give it a chance. See what your team can handle, so you're there for the NBA Finals. I am not quite understanding why they feel it's so important. For Steph Curry to be out there when you have a 33-2 record. I understand we're still not even halfway into the season. I understand we're about another 6 games away from being halfway through the NBA season. But that's still not a chance that I'm willing to take, because that's an injury that could possibly turn into being something worse and worse or worse, or turn into another injury. I don't see what is so important about this run that you're willing to risk a back-to-back championship that you're favored to do. I mean, going into the season, yes, Cleveland was favored, and going into the season, yes, San Antonio was even more favored. But now that's, I'm going to say now, after you started making that run and you was in the 20 wins or even late in the teen wins, I think that the momentum and the favorite changed. But here, you're sitting 33-2. There's no doubt in my mind that there is probably nobody out there that is more favored than you at this point. Why you got a complete team? I talked about this. Why Oklahoma is not going to win a championship. You can't do it with just 2 superstars and that's it. You either got to have 3 superstars and a pretty good staff, or you got to have a really good staff. Golden State don't have 3 or 4 superstars. They have a really, really, really good crew. I would not call Klay Thompson a superstar. I would not call Draymond Green a superstar. I sure in hell would never call Harrison Barnes a superstar. But I would call Draymond Green really, really good. Klay Thompson really, really good. Yeah, I'd call Steph Curry a superstar. You got Harrison Barnes, who is really good in that system. Any other system, he would not flurry the way he does. Curry and Thompson help, cover up a lot of his weakness. And they have other really good role players in their system that wouldn't necessarily be good in other systems, but their system, they're really good at what they do. Cleveland had to get 3 superstars and then a pretty good supporting cast. I mean, I would say a little bit more than pretty good. I mean, you got, LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, and then you got some really good supporting players such as Tristan Thompson. And so, and then you got the streaky Shumpert and Smith that are pretty good. I'm not going to say really good. I mean, you got to have San Antonio. I wouldn't say any of those guys are now superstars. I would call a couple of them legends and Hall of Famers at this point. But that team is loaded just like Golden State with a bunch of really good players in that system, in the Popovich system. I don't know what Tony Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, how good they would be in other systems. But the system that they're in with Tim Duncan and the system that they have with Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard and Marcus Aldridge and the list goes on, makes that a very good team. And so you got a team full of very good players in a system that you've established and Steve Kerr established. I just don't understand why you would jeopardize what you have, what run you can make, repeat champions, just to have Steph Curry on the court, just so you can potentially have the best record all time in NBA history. It's not worth it to me. It is not. Dallas and Sacramento played a really good game last night. Double overtime. I tell you what, what's up with these double and triple overtime games all of a sudden? Dallas ends up being victorious with Deron Williams 3 at the buzzer to win. Williams ended up having 25 points, 2 boards, 4 assists. Cousins, 35 points, 17 rebounds. I know that he helped send the game into overtime. I did catch that a little bit earlier. Just a fun game to watch. As Dirk ends up having 23 points as he puts on a great game. Wesley Matthews, 20 points as they're able to overcome DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay's 31 points as well. Didn't help Rajon Rondo not being out there. I'm sure that really could have helped change a little bit of it. But impressive win to me for the Dallas Mavericks. A win. I know San Antonio was only 14-20 going into the game, but Sacramento, I mean, that's a team to me that has been really starting to click a little bit. I mean, it's not a Sacramento team that, I feel that the record is deceiving, and the fact that they're 4-6 of their last 10 games is kind of deceiving. I mean, I would not want to go with now. Like I said, we're getting to Rudy Gay, DeMarcus Cousins, Rajon Rondo, where we're starting to get far enough into the season that now the pieces are starting to click somewhat, and they might not win on a nightly basis. It might be sporadic, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to go against them. I mean, it's a tough physical team. It's not a team, even though that they're unable to get to 500, even though they're way out of the playoff picture looking in. They're a physical team. They're a team that is going to wear you down, and there's not a guarantee that you're going to beat. It's not like when you go to play the Lakers with an 8-28 record, or even New Orleans that's only been able to win 11 games all year. I know it's saying a lot with Sacramento only having 14 wins. It's not like you're playing Philadelphia either. It's a team that you don't know. A team that is only, either one player or a little more. What word am I looking for here? A little more. I don't want to use the word teamwork away, but I guess that's the word I'm going to use right this second. Just a little bit more. They're almost there. Sacramento, you add the right piece, or you find a system that works best for the whole team, away from being a playoff contending team, or being even more than just making the playoffs, but being a somewhat of a threat. And so to Dallas to win this game, to me, was impressive, because you just don't know with Sacramento what you're going to get from night in and night out, and how tough they're going to play you, and how physical things are going to get. And it seems that Sacramento finds ways to push your buttons in order to to make things interesting and cause you to sometimes lose your cool out there. There's just those teams. I mean, you had the Bad Boys of Detroit. Once upon a time, you had New York and Indiana, and when they were, having, their players and roughing it up, that's kind of what Sacramento reminds me. Like I said, I mean, they're still a player or so away from being a threat. But it kind of reminds me of the New York Knicks of the 90s and the Indiana Pacers of the 90s, that you got a physical team that, they get a really good shooter, a really good scorer. Then things could turn in a different direction for Sacramento. Defensively, they just got to play ball a little bit better. I mean, you're allowing 107.9 points a game. That's up there. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at it, and that's the most in their division. That's the most by any Western Division team. As a matter of fact, there's not a single team out there that allows more points per game than the Sacramento Kings, and that's an issue. I mean, defense. You got to shut down teams. You got to play. It's not all offense. It's not all. This is not an NBA All-Star game every night of the week. You get one of those a year. If you're lucky enough to be selected to it, then you get to play in it. But that's kind of the mentality that they're playing. That they're going to not have to put the effort into playing defense because they feel that they're going to outscore everybody. Now, granted, they're up there in scoring offense. I mean, you only got in the Western Conference, you only got Golden State and Oklahoma City that are scoring more points per game than the Sacramento Kings, and there is nobody in the Eastern Conference scoring more than the Sacramento Kings per game. So I mean, they're third highest scoring offense, and that's why I say, I mean, they're almost there. They're a piece away. I mean, when Golden State with 113.7 points a game, and then you got Oklahoma with 108.5, and that's got a lot to do with Kevin Durant and Westbrook on a night-to-night basis scoring what they score, which by the end of the season they're going to be out of fuel, and that's just the way it is every year. When you're the third highest scoring team, and that's over Chicago, that is over Cleveland, that is over Indiana, that is over San Antonio, that is over the Clippers. That tells you that this team that's over Houston. That tells you this team is right there. It is on the verge of being not only a playoff team, but a legitimate playoff team. One player away that can help you not only offensively and put up even more points, but defensively. I mean, even if you're not putting up more points offensively, I mean defensively, if you're able to shut teams down and not allow as many points, so offensively you don't have to be necessarily as productive. I mean, when you're the third highest scoring team in the NBA and yet you're a 14-21 team, that tells you everything you need to know about your defense and the lack of concentration and the lack of effort. There's no reason that you are the third highest scoring offense in the NBA, and you are not even mentioned in a playoff opportunity, and you are not above 500 or even a 500. Like I said, I mean, third highest scoring offense, but the worst defense. Something's got to change there. New York, Atlanta, very chippery game as these guys bumped heads. Obviously, there is no love lost there. New York, a team that a lot of people was laughing at when they drafted the way they drafted, and their off-season moves, and it was like nobody wanted to go play for the New York Knicks. 17-19, not the greatest record in the world, much better than what they've been. Sure in the hell an improvement over last year. Just kind of hanging around, looking at an opportunity to find a way to slip into the playoffs. I know we're mad early, but you got New York at 11th seed right now on the outside looking in, and definitely trying to improve and find themselves. And I think that's interesting that here we are, and we actually got 10 teams that are 500 and above in the Eastern Conference. And we only got 6 teams in the Western Conference that are above 500. And it amazes me looking at this, because so many years now, we've talked about how impressive the Western Conference is and how much better the Western Conference is than the Eastern Conference. And why do we have only 8 teams in the Western Conference being the playoffs when we have 12 teams that are better, and 12 teams above 500, and we're allowing teams below 500 in the Eastern Conference. I mean, last year we had Bucks were right at 500, and there was another team that was below 500. I know there was 2 teams that are 500 or below in the playoffs last year. So to see the roles kind of reverse and see the power starting to shift and see, I mean, I know that's a hard statement to make when you're looking at Golden State and San Antonio right now with a combined record of 63-8, and you have nothing close to that in the Eastern Conference. You don't even have one team with only 8 losses, as Cleveland comes in with a 23-9 as your next best team. But when you got a 63, and that also tells you how lopsided the schedules are right now. When you got a 63-8 of 71 games, and then the next best on the other side is 44-21 with only like 65 games. So. But yeah, 44 and 21 is your top 2 best over that side. And you got 63-8. But I know that's a hard argument to make when the Western Conference top 2 teams have less losses combined than your best team in the Eastern Conference. But the power has started to shift. The Eastern Conference has finally caught up and is starting to kind of move forward a little bit as we watch, like I said, 10 teams above 500 at this point. I mean, not that it's an impressive group of guys in a team, but I mean, out 7th and 8th in the Western Conference, Houston 17-19, Utah 15-18. That's why I said Sacramento's right there, and there's a really good possibility if they can figure out their defense, they'll be in there. I mean, they're sitting in 10th, and there's only 3 games out of the playoff picture at this point. All it takes is some actual defensive playing and getting back to the basics. But same with New York. Shutting teams down, only allowing 99.7 points a game. That offense, they got to be more productive. One of the lower scoring offenses in the NBA in the Eastern Conference, as Miami is really the only team that's even in the playoff picture right now that they're outscoring, which is really impressive with Miami to know that you are the lowest scoring team in the Eastern Conference outside of the bottom 3 teams. And not even necessarily, I mean, Milwaukee's actually outscoring them per game, and Brooklyn just right there. But that 94.6, the lowest team in the the lowest team in the Eastern Conference, and the second stingiest defense in all of basketball. That just says a lot about that Miami team. Not that the Cleveland's too far behind with the 94.7. I mean, right there. On their coattail, and that says a lot about the Cleveland's defense as well. That has not been talked a lot about. Everybody's more focused on what Cleveland is doing offensively, and Kyrie Irving being back, and will Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, and LeBron all be able to coexist, and everything else. Not talking about the fact that the defense is one of the stingiest defenses out there. 3rd stingiest behind San Antonio, and I don't even talk about the fact that they're not even allowing 90 points per game. And, that says a little bit more about Golden State as well. That, I know Golden State's throwing up 113 points per game, and that's where the focus is. But they're allowing a 101-point game. And I'm not saying that they're not playing good defense, but for them to be as impressive as they are, defense is not obviously one of the stronger points. Is almost the whole Eastern Conference is allowing less points per game than the Golden State Warriors. I mean, granted, when you're killing everybody by 20, 30 points, It doesn't really matter. And when you're scoring 113 points a game, and the next closest teams are like 108 points per game, I guess it really doesn't matter. But I tell you what, that San Antonio defense, that's where it needs to be at. And but yeah, to be the Miami Heat and not putting up the points that they're putting up, and able to be the third best team in the Eastern Conference, and their defense to be as stingy as it is, that's very impressive to me. And what Miami has going there. And the other game last night was the Chicago Bulls and the Milwaukee Bucks, as Chicago rolls over Milwaukee 117 to 106 to give them a five-game win streak right now. And it was funny because I was watching the SportsCenter last night, and of course they got back onto Butler and this game that he had, and talking up this game. And once again, all I could do is sit there and scratch my head and sit there and think to myself, how many times have we made such a big deal about someone scoring 42 points? I mean, 42 points. I understand that 42 points is quite a few points, even in NBA terms. But I don't recall there ever being such a fuss and such attention on somebody scoring 42 points. And like I said, I understand that 40 of it came in one half. And I understand that Michael Jordan never did that. He was only able to do 39 points in a half. I understand that. And I understand that that's what helps bring some of the attention to that particular game. But you scored 42 points. To me, that is not that big of a task. We see players score 30, 40 points all the time. Like I said, yes, I understand it's a good game. I mean, how often do we see Steph Curry score 40 points? And we don't sit there and make such put such a spotlight on Steph Curry. We come to it's come to be one of those things that's kind of almost to be expected at this point. We expect Steph Curry to hit, I don't know, somewhere around 6 to 8 at least 3-pointers. That's 24 points right out the gate. And then we expect him to hit the free throw line a good 8 to 10 times. It gives you about 34 points. And then we expect some layups and some shots, some tough shots. I mean, 42 points, people. Why are we making such a fuss just because he scored 40 of it in a half? How about we talk about the lack of playing in the first half? I mean, to me, that would be more of the focus. That would be more of the concern is, why was you only able to score 2 points the whole first half? Why did you only take 4 shots? Instead, the ESPNs of the world and the social media, they're more focused on, oh my God, this performance that Jimmy Butler put on. I mean, it's one of the greatest performances ever. He scored 40 points in a half. Well, did he? How many points did he score for that game? I mean, 40 points and a half, when I heard 40 points and a half, I'm expecting 68, 60, 70 points or something for a game. He scored 42 points. So you guys are hyping up a performance because he scored 40 points and a half? That he scored 42 points for the whole game, and that's what you're hyping? I don't know. As remarkable as it was to score 40 points and a half, it was not that great of a performance. You scored 42 measly points. Well, I say measly, but you scored 42 points. You scored 2 measly points in the first half. There you go. Is that better? Don't hype up. 32 points, and we're not even talking about it today. I mean, 10 less points. He scored 32 points over the Milwaukee Bucks last night. And because it wasn't a half a game that was dynamic and another half a game that was garbage, we're not concerned about it today. I mean, well, why are we not talking about 32 points today? I mean, 32 points is just as good to me as 42 points. One, you still won. I'm sure that his stats were probably even better in the 32 game performance, rebounds, and assists than probably was with the 42-point game performance, especially not shooting percentage wise. I tell you what, I give him credit on that. That was a very good high percentage shooting point. He didn't miss many shots. But if you score 40 points and a half, that means you weren't assisting too much. You were taking charge and you were ball hogging. And I'm not trying to call him a ball hogger, but you took a lot of shots to score 40 points and a half. So I'd be willing to bet that the overall performance, other than maybe your field goal percentage, was probably better in the 32-point game than it was the 42-point game. But yet we're focused on the fact that he scored 40 points and a half, not the whole game. And believe it or not, SportsCenter, believe it or not, social media, believe it or not, those out there that are still hung up on the fact that he scored 40 points and a half. In the NBA, there's 2 halves. There's 4 quarters. Believe it or not, it's not a half game. There's a whole game there. And if you want to make a big deal about a player and how they perform, you need to take the whole game into consideration. That's why I despise listening to ESPN. Like I said, most of the time, if I listen to ESPN or watch ESPN, SportsCenter, or whatever, most of the time I'm muted. I'll just read the stats. I mean, SportsCenter going on and on about, well, this basketball player, he scores this many points when there's no clouds, and not that it makes a difference because you're in an arena, but when there's no clouds in the sky and the temperature is 53.5 degrees Fahrenheit, when the wind's blowing east to west at a 6 mile an hour ratio, this player has the best chance and it has the highest scoring average ever in NBA history. That's the kind of garbage that they sit there and talk about. And I get so irately aggravated listening to them talk about useless stats. I'm sorry, but scoring 40 points and a half is a useless stat. He scored 42 points. They won. That's all that matters. Not what he did a half a game. Not what he did 3/4 of a game. Not what he did in 1/4. ESPN will break down. Well, he's the highest shooting scorer in a 5-minute period ever in the. Nobody cares. There's 48 minutes, not 24, not 12, not 36, 48 minutes in an NBA game. Stop making a fuss about what somebody did in part of a game. That's why these kids grow up to play the sport and have the wrong mentality. I just got to give an effort in half the game. Look at Jimmy Butler. He scored 2 points. Didn't really do nothing in the first half. He kind of stood there with his thumb up his butt. Look at the praise he gets for scoring and only showing up for half the game. ESPN, stop it. You're gonna be what ruins everything. You're gonna put these kids' mentality that as long as I'm great in half a game, that's all I need to play. I'm gonna get the attention that I want. Stop it. Got a full slate of games tonight. So looking forward to be able to sit here and talk tomorrow. Well, looking at some of these games, New York and Miami. Oh, Lord have mercy. Cleveland and Washington. Indiana and Orlando. I mean, even though Toronto and Brooklyn ain't really that great, that's 2 teams that are not great playing each other, so it should make for a good game. Detroit at Boston. Denver and Minnesota. Once again, I mean, two games or 2 teams that really ain't no good, but put them against each other. At least it'll be fun to watch. Dallas and New Orleans. I mean, what is the deal with New Orleans? I mean, you got one of the best basketball players in the league right now. And I guess that's more of the issue. You paid all that money for Anthony Davis, but because he wanted such a max contract, you just don't have the money to really put a supporting cast that you need around him. I mean, the record's showing 11 wins. That's it so far. Utah and San Antonio. I feel sorry for Utah. I'm sorry, San Antonio to me. I don't get the talk as Golden State. But I don't know if I could say with 100% confidence that Golden State would beat San Antonio in a series right now. To me, there's two teams that is hard to bet against. It's hard to bet against Tom Brady and a Bill Belichick system when it comes to the NFL, and it's hard to bet against Tim Duncan and a Popovich system in the NBA. I'm sorry, but there's a reason why the San Antonio Spurs have the success they have. They have the championships they have. That they play to the level they play. That system and the players that they keep re-adding to that team. I feel sorry for Utah tonight. But I don't know if I could say without a shadow of a doubt, even though Golden State is sitting 33-2, that they could beat San Antonio in a 1-game series, 3-game series, or even a 7-game series. I don't think it'd be a sweep. I mean, let's give credit to San Antonio. I mean, they are 30-6. They are the second best team in all of basketball. And they don't get a lot of attention because of what Golden State is doing and what the historic run, the 24-0 start, and them trying to have the best record. And why are we not talking about San Antonio possibly not having 10 losses just because they've already got 6? I guarantee if San Antonio stepped up and played even harder and didn't rest as often as they did, that they could be running this historic run as well. But San Antonio is there for the championship. They're not, and that's the difference right there. San Antonio is more worried about being there and being the NBA Finals champion. Golden State right now is more focused on making a historic run and having the best record all time, going at 73-9 or better. If that wasn't the case, Steph Curry would have already been sitting out more games than what he's sat out so far. They would be resting him. They would be getting him his due rest so he's ready for the playoffs. Also, we got Charlotte and Phoenix tonight. Two teams that are, it might be interesting. I think Charlotte should be able to win this, hands down. But, Phoenix shut up a few games. Memphis and Oklahoma. Memphis, I tell you what, it's a weird team to me. I can sit there and watch them win some impressive games. And then the next game, they get their butts handed to them by 20, 30 points. And I'm just like, what just happened here? And then the Clippers and Portland is your last game tonight. So I think the Clippers should be able to take this one pretty easily. Portland is kind of depleted itself at this point and just really not the threat that they once were. But those are your games on tap tonight to watch. Very, very, very full slate of games tonight. Over in the NHL, I'll tell you what, the Florida Panthers extend their record 10th in a row. I tell you what, the Florida Panthers, I don't know what, we talked about this a little bit last night on the 110 Nation Sports Show when we had Izzo on. And I don't know which one is impressing me more right now, the Washington Capitals and the run that they're making. They got like 7 losses, and that's it. Like, they're not even close to double-digit losses this late in the season already. Or the Panthers run where they have now taken over their division and on a 10-game win streak. We got a handful of games tonight, not quite as many in the NBA, but I know the puckheads out there are looking forward to the lineups we got tonight. We got the New Jersey Devils and Montreal. You got Pittsburgh and Chicago. You got St. Louis and Colorado, Carolina, Vancouver, and Toronto and Anaheim. A lot of great games tonight to be able to take in. So definitely. Definitely looking forward to watching this slate of games that they got going on tonight. Make sure you guys check into your Wednesday rivalry tonight and everything else. So definitely excited about that. Don't forget, you got the 110 Nation Sports Show on tonight at 9 p.m. We have Rashad Mitchell joining us. He is he's published 28 books. He's coming on tonight to talk some sports, talk about his latest book, the top 50 most underrated running backs in NFL history. Looking forward to having him on the show. Looking forward to getting to hear his list and who he has. I'd love to know top 5, top 10 underrated running backs in NFL history. But got him coming on tonight. He's got a lot of great things to talk about tonight, so make sure you guys tune in. Don't forget, you can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the One Nation at 110 Nation. Check us out on Facebook, my personal page, Mr. CJ Sports, the 110 Nation page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check out our site, www.the110nation.com. Check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com, for all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Don't forget, Monday through Friday, right here, the 110 Nation Morning Show. Do not miss it. Get your day started off on the right foot. Looking forward to being back here tomorrow morning. You guys have a great day, and we'll be talking to you tomorrow.